Recently, there's been a lot of talk about Junior Motorsports potentially moving up to the Cup Series, and that got me thinking, if the cost of acquiring a charter goes down and it becomes a bit more feasible to get one, what other teams from the lower divisions could we see making the leap up into the Cup Series? So, let's get into it. The most outlandish and downright out there new team that could leapfrog to Cup is Rev Racing. Rev Racing is an ARCA Menard Series team that works heavily with NASCAR's Draft Diversity program to enable those candidates to get real-life opportunities. Some notable alumni include Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Natalie Decker, and Ryan Vargas. Now look, I'm sure Max Siegel, team owner for the organization, will be able to work something out to iron out the biggest issue here, which is sponsorship. You see, the team owner is basically funding this operation out of pocket. And sure, they occasionally get a big corporate, but it's not nearly enough money to get a charter, even if the costs go down and run a successful Cup team. Now, I'm sure they'd be able to find the talent to drive their cars. If Nick Sanchez develops enough, or Raja Caruth, they could build something special, but it's far-fetched, and I just can't see an ARCA team making that kind of leap. So why don't we head down to the Truck Series? One team that comes to mind is Hattori Racing Enterprises. Owned by former IndyCar driver Shigeaki Hattori, the team has had quite the success in the Truck Series. They really struck gold with Austin Hill, who contended for championships with the organization. Now, the most obvious issue is, of course, money, but considering they have two drivers who are generally considered as paid drivers, I don't think that's too big of an issue. It's more of, will Toyota let them? Do they want to? Who could drive for them? I mean, I don't think Tyler Ankrum is ready for the leap, and I definitely don't think Chase Purdy is either. So maybe they bank on some TRD drivers instead. Maybe a guy like Jeffrey Earnhardt, Ryan Truex, Trevor Bayne. I don't know, but it is an interesting thought for sure. Then you have Rackley WAR Racing. This is a team that does have a lot of money, but maybe doesn't have all the resources that would help them flourish in the Cup Series. They're a midfield truck team at best, which would probably be equivalent to a backmarker Cup team. If they get the right parts and pieces, who knows? They have a wheelman in Matt Benedetto, who is known to punch teams well above their weight, but it would be a long-term commitment, and I just don't know if Willie Allen and Chris Sutton would be open to that. They would be horrendous out of the gate, that's for sure. But in 5 to 10 years, who knows what they might become. Then you have a truck/ARCA team in McAnally-Hilgemann Racing. The thing that's the most interesting about McAnally's team is they have a full-fledged development team, which streams through late models, ARCA West, ARCA, and then trucks. But you know what would legitimize that development team? A Cup team. I don't think any late model driver wants to join NASCAR just to find a dead end in trucks, so I think giving an opportunity for them to go Cup racing would be good. They have the resources, sponsorship, and Derek Kraus has some talent. Maybe not Cup talent, but the potential is there if they develop him a little bit more. McAnally has too many development drivers and really not enough spots to put them, so it would free up a truck ride, which would topple the dominoes down and freeing up some lower level rides. I think any Chevy team here has a chance when you have a team like Spire, who doesn't really seem totally committed to having two charters, so they could lease one or just downright sell one. Now, the biggest con with McAnally-Hilgemann Racing is the location. McAnally-Hilgemann Racing is the only California-based team in NASCAR, and being located way out in the west doesn't help their chances at maybe getting some next-gen parts and pieces. All of the next-gen cars are going into North Carolina or are in the North Carolina-based area, and having to ship those all the way out to California might not be ideal. So I don't think that they would move. McAnally-Hilgemann Racing has been based out in California for a long, long time, so they obviously wouldn't move. But getting those resources at the right time would definitely be a bit of a hassle, and may be a hassle that they would not want to get their fingers in. But you also have to look at a potential Ford team, David Gilliland Racing. Ford's development system is pretty narrow in the grand scheme of things, and nearly impossible to fully see through. Typically, Ford just hires other OEM drivers after they fully develop. But what if Ford took it into their own hands? What if there was a direct connection between a Ford truck team, a competitive Ford truck team at that, and a potential Cup ride? It would definitely be a good way to attract more prospects to the pipeline. David Gilliland has the means and the know-how, so I don't see why not. Now, we've talked about NASCAR teams in lower divisions, but what about other motorsports series? You could talk about AJ Foyt's IndyCar team, but seeing how financially things aren't going up to par, I doubt it. The best team who hasn't previously dabbled in a NASCAR or isn't already in it is Andretti Autosport. The Andretti name has some NASCAR history associated with it. There are rumors that they could join Formula One, but how about another premier-level motorsports series, such as NASCAR? It might be a good way to attract IndyCar drivers to the sport. And that's the thing. It doesn't even have to be full-time or with the charter. It could just be a small excursion with drivers who have previous experience in a NASCAR stock car. They have loads of money to throw into the competitive pool, and you put the right people in charge, this could be a successful endeavor. There's also McLaren, who actually had a NASCAR esports team as recently as last year. Sponsorship with Aero Electronics is already sorted out, and just like Andretti Autosport, all they really need is a wheelman and some smart people at the helm. They have their toes dipped in a ton of different branches of motorsports, and a NASCAR team could further boost the brand image of McLaren. I think it would be a pretty good addition to NASCAR, and hey, maybe if he stays at the team, we could see Daniel Ricciardo getting that elusive NASCAR seat after all. The last three teams are ones that actually hold some water to them and are not just baseless speculation. They've been talked about in the past. Firstly, there's Kyle Busch Motorsports. The rumors for Kyle Busch going up to Cup have been sporadically talked about in the last decade, but each have naturally run their course and quickly died down. Kyle Busch hasn't openly denied it and has actually stated that he's interested and open to that idea. Of course, they are a truck team, but even though they are a top truck team, there's still a lot of parts and pieces that need to be hauled in to actually make this remotely sensible. You also have the aforementioned woes with getting Toyota to approve. Toyota is very strict with what teams get to run the silver emblem, and it's possible that due to lack of funding or resources, they could shoot this entire thing down. Right now, they have a Cup-ready driver in John Hunter Nemechek, which is something they've never had in the team's entire history. It wouldn't have made sense in 2015 to have Bubba Wallace in a Cup car, as it wouldn't have made sense with William Byron in 2017 or Christopher Bell in 2018. All of these drivers had zero prior Cup experience at the time, but JHN does right now. However, it seems that he's eyeing a Cup seat as early as next year, and at the earliest, KBM will have to wait until the mid-2020s before they even put this on a blueprint. Perhaps by then they would have a fully developed Chandler Smith or a fully developed Corey Heim. But regardless of what driver pilots this, it would be a great addition to the Cup Series from a marketing standpoint and a competitive standpoint. The same could be said about Nice Motorsports from a marketing standpoint, but not from a competitive standpoint. You look at where they've come from, and they've come a long way, don't get me wrong, but they really only have two talents to boast, Ross Chastain and Carson Hocevar. Every other driver that has waved the Nice banner has struggled horrendously. And this leads me to believe that they are just a midfield or fringe trucks playoff contender masked by the occasional Chastain or Hocevar. And if that's true, they are definitely not Cup ready. I'm sure Al Nice and Cody Efon know what they're doing, but if 75% of their truck team is struggling, why risk 100% of the brand between Cup and trucks? They can barely muster the sponsorship in trucks, which is why they've hired guys like Dean Thompson and Lawless Allen. In my opinion, they could build a solid Truck Series team, like you see with ThorSport or KBM, with drivers who could realistically get to Cup like a Hocevar, maybe run the plate tracks in Cup, and then think about getting a boatload of next-gen cars and mustering together the resources to do it. They have a plan in place to do it next year, but as someone who enjoys watching Nice try and beat the Goliaths of the Truck Series, my worry is that things are going to go south in a heartbeat. But the team everyone is talking about is Junior Motorsports. Unlike the other ones, which have only had peeps here and there or are a bit speculatory, the team owners Kelly Earnhardt Miller and Dale Earnhardt Jr. have openly stated that they want to go Cup racing. So, why haven't they? Well, the cost of the charters and the scarcity of available charters out there. While a JRM Cup car might be more competitive than a Live Fast Motorsports car or a Spire Motorsports car, neither team are just going to give those up. It takes guts to lay it out all on the line and try and get a charter. Look at what 2311 Racing had to go through at the end of 2021 just to get a Starcom charter. With the next TV deal on the horizon and the cost of charters expected to potentially go down in the next few years, there's a small window that JRM can squeeze through to get it done. The charter might be a hard part of going to Cup, but the worst would be yet to come. Sponsorship, building a plan for the long term, trying to be reasonably competitive and maximize the value of the charter. You have all of that and more, and it's tenuous, and it requires years. There's also hiring the right driver. You could get a guy like Justin Allgaier, Josh Berry, or a guy Dale Jr. teased, Martin Truex Jr., to help in the initial years of building the team before you put in a guy like Sam Mayer, just to get the team's feet above the ground. Or you could go all in with a young prospect. But to be honest, that's the easy part. There are 36 slices of pizza that are upside down in the here and the now. Right now, JRM has to wait to see if any of them will flip right side up so they can snatch one for themselves. So, do you think any of these teams will be able to snatch a charter? Are there teams not mentioned in this video that you would want to see make the leap to Cup? Are there ones that were mentioned in this video that you agree with or disagree with? Let me know in the comment section below. And until next time, this has been the news. I'll see you.